Alright, so we are still on scatter plots and trend lines, and this time we will be working on interpolation or extrapolation. We'll use our trend line to be able to predict a value, okay? So here we have the weight of a panda based on its age in months, and as you can see, what we first need to do is to make sure that we create a scatter plot of this data, okay? Now, I already as I already have it plotted, and this is how it would look like now. Okay, so each of these points correspond to the age and weight of the panda. Now, if you would remember from our definition of a trend line, your trend line is a representation of the scatter plot, and as much as you can, try your best when you are creating a trend line. Try your best to touch as many points as you can, all right? So as you can see here, this blue line is our trend line. And if you're going to notice very carefully, there are 2 points on our data set that is exactly on our trend line. So you will see that we have 2 points, that's 4 and 17.1. So that's 1 point that's exactly on the line. And then the other point is 8 and 37.9. Okay, so why do we need those 2 points? Why do we need 2 points? Remember, we need to find the equation of this trend line. Okay, once we have an equation of the trend line, then we can use that equation to make predictions based on, it could be a future value or a value in between our data set. Okay, so of course, when we are writing an equation of the line, the easiest would always be the slope-intercept form, correct? So we need a slope, and how do we find a slope? We need 2 points. And so what we will do is find the slope using these 2 distinct points that are found exactly on our trend line. Okay, so our slope is going to be y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, all right? So it's going to be 37.9 minus 17.1 divided by 8 minus 4. And you will have this 37.9 minus 17.1, that's going to be 20.8. And then 8 minus 4 is going to be 4. Now you can use your calculator. 20.8 divided by 4, this is going to be equal to 5.2. All right, so this is our slope. Now, do we have an intercept, since we want to write it in slope-intercept form, correct? Intercept, as you can see, this graph or this trend line doesn't even cross our y-axis. So what does that mean? Well, we can use our point-slope form, all right? So since we are given 2 points here, it doesn't matter which one we use, all right? So let's just use the one that's lower, okay? So since we cannot write it immediately in slope-intercept form, we will temporarily write our equation in point-slope form. So it will be y minus our y value for this is 17.1, okay, equals our slope, which is 5.2, times x minus our x value, which is 4. All right, and so just like the usual, we can simplify. How do we do that? We can do the distribution. So this will be 17.1 is equal to 5.2x. 5.2 times negative 4, you multiply that, that will be 20.8. And we know that we need to combine like terms, so we will have to add 17.1 on both sides. Okay, so our equation now is y is equal to 5.2x, 20.8, negative 20.8, and positive 17.1. That is going to give us negative 3.7. Oops, sorry, I forgot my x. 5.2x minus 3.7. So now we have this equation. We can use this to predict to make an approximation of the weight of a 7-month-old panda. If we're going to take a look at our data set, 7 months is not included. Is 7 months within this given set of data, or is it outside? Well, if you're going to take a look at our data carefully, 6 is here, 6 months is here, 8 months is here as well. So 7 is right in between there. So we're going to make an interpolation. And how do we do that? So since 7 months, 7 is in months, so that's the age, that is our x value. So what we will do is we will replace the x in our trend lines equation, replace it by 7. So this will now be y is equal to 5.2 times 7 months again, okay, minus 3.7. So when you simplify this expression, so 5.2 times 7, that product subtracted by 3.7, you will be able to get a value of 32.7. So what is this 32.7? This is the weight of, this is the approximate weight of a 7-month-old panda. So as you can see here, we were given a data set. We plotted each of the point. We used a line that can best connect all the as many points as you can from our scatter plot, and from there we are able to create an equation of a line. Why do we need that equation of the line? That line, that's why it's called a trend line. It can give us a pattern already as to how the data will progress, and from there we are able to predict, we are able to make an approximation as to what could have been the weight of a certain age of the panda, in this case 7-month-old panda. All right, so why don't you try this next example on your own. This time it's going to be an approximate height of a 7-month-old panda. It's a different data set. So make a scatter plot, create a trend line. Okay, the nice thing about the trend line is that there's no one possible answer with trend line, because remember, it's up to you to create that line, and your goal is to touch as many points as you can based from your scatter plot. So with this particular problem, there are multiple possible ways. There are different types of answer that you might get, but pretty much your value, your approximate value, will pretty much be the same amount roughly. Okay, so try this one out on your own. Go ahead. All right, so as you can see here, this is my scatter plot, and the trend line. Again, for the trend line, you can have different ways on how you can draw the trend line. You can touch as different points on your trend line. You can use different points as your slope, and it does not necessarily mean that you will have to have 2.3 as your slope. Okay, if you happen to use, let's say 6, this point here and this point here, you're definitely not gonna have the same slope as this one. All right, so do not panic if you do not have exactly the same answer here, but you will notice that after you have created your equation with the trend line, the approximate value of the height will be somewhere around 24 to probably 25 inches. That's the approximate height of a 7-month-old panda. Okay, so as long as you create a straight line and you can touch as many points as you can, and your trend line should be okay. Again, eventually the approximate or the predicted value will be very near. You can have different values, but it will be very near, like I said, in this case, between 24 and 25 inches. All right.